Hey, what's up, guys? It's Andrew Santalski. I'm making you another UFC prediction video. This time, UFC 283. Teixeira versus Hill goes down today, Saturday, January 21st, 2023. Prelims start at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It's going down from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. First UFC pay-per-view of the year. So let's get right into the first fight. Daniel Marcos against Simon Oliveira. Oliveira's only fought once in the UFC. Marcos, he's a Dana White Contender Series vet. And I'm going to side with Marcos here in this fight, man. Like I said, Oliveira lost to Gravely. Showed some heart in that fight, but he was just outmatched. Hasn't fought in a year. Marcos, he's the slight underdog right now on best fight odds. So we'll refresh this real quick, and we see Marcos is a plus 120. Oliveira minus 140. I'm going to side with Marcos here, man. Just like I said, I don't have a whole lot of trust in either of these guys, but I'm going to side with Marcos here. Josiane Nunes against Zara Fayem, and we know Fayem is somebody that hasn't fought in the UFC in almost 3 years. I kind of remember her losing to Megan Anderson on the first Whitaker versus Adesanya fight. Nunes, I just remember her just landing combinations on Ramona Pascual. Just a very aggressive Brazilian woman. 2-0 in the UFC, and I'm going to side with her here to beat Zara. Warlley Alves against Dalby. Alves hasn't fought in almost 2 years. What we can say about Alves is the guy's a finisher, man. When he wins, he typically finishes, and then he kind of gasses if he doesn't. And I'm going to side with the more active guy here in Nicholas Dalby. I do not like trusting Nicholas Dalby for much. I just remember his stinker of a performance in Germany that allowed Peter Sabota to beat him. And I remember Dalby was, I think, a pretty big favorite in that fight. And he just really looked like an amateur against Peter Sabota. But he's rebounded nicely, man. He's picked up some nice wins. Can't take too much stock in beating Claudio Silva, man. The guy just retired. He was kind of at the end. So I'm not going to take much stock in that, man. My original pick was Alves here, but I am going to side with Nicholas Dalby. Terrence McKinney against Ismael Bonfim. I'm going to side with Bonfim here, man. Both these guys are finishers. McKinney, I don't think this guy's ever gone in decision, man. It's first round or bust for this guy, and this guy, he connects on everybody. So it's not about his fighting skills. It's just he's never gone outside of the first round. And Bonfim, he's gone in decision his last few fights. Dana White Contender Series vet. And I'm just going to say, man, hey, if McKinney can't get the job done here, I'm going to side with Bonfim here. And this fight is a pick'em. I do like the talent that McKinney has gone up against, but I just don't think he's going to sub Bonfim here. Unless he rocks and hurts Bonfim. And then I just suspect in the back of my mind, if McKinney can't get him out of there early, he's done for him, you know. And I'm just not going to pick McKinney in this fight here, guys. Here's another fight where I don't like the matchup for Stamen, even though he's a minus 400 here. Guy's coming off a nice win over Eddie Wineland's got good stand up. This Luan Lacerda, man, he's got an 8.5-inch reach advantage over Cody Stamen. Yeah, he probably hasn't fought some of the guys Stamen has, but this guy is a finisher. And he'll finish you in the first, second, third round via all methods, man. And I just think Cody Stamen is just susceptible to submission defeats. And, Stamen's a wrestler. He's going to want to take this down at some point. Lacerda's got such a reach, he might jump to the guy's back, when they're up against the cage or locking a heel hook. I mean, there's just all types of avenues where I think Lacerda can get the win here. Stamen wins, he wins, but I'm going to side with Lacerda to get this big upset. Jailton Almeida against Shamil. And Shamil's just being fed to the wolves here. Jailton, they've been trying to make this matchup for a while, and I just think Jailton's going to get him down, pass the mount, and either, finish him with strikes or lock in a submission. But I suspect we'll see Shamil tapping the mat, and there's no shame to that. This Jailton really hasn't decided whether he's just going to bounce around heavyweight and light heavyweight, or he's going to settle upon a weight class. Gabriel Bonfim against Munir Lazzez, and I think the UFC wants to get both of these Bonfim brothers a win here, and I think they gave them matchups that are tough, but are both very possible to happen here. That allow both brothers to pick up a win. And I'm going to side with Gabriel Bonfim here as well. You know, this guy is very good at picking up submission wins. He's going up against a tough out here in Munir Lazzez, and I can't really recount if we've seen Lazzez's ground game tested. The guy is a serviceable stand-up fighter, that is for sure. But he's only fought 3 times in the UFC, and there's been large gaps in between his fights. I'm going to go with Gabriel here to pick up the win. Thiago Moises against this Costa guy. Costa had some weird dyed hair at the weigh-ins. He's a finisher. I am going to side with Moises here, man. I think Moises stays out of danger. Gets to his bread and butter. He is a good stand-up fighter as well. He has been hurt in some of his fights, but Moises has a wicked ground game, and I suspect that he will use it here. So I'm picking Moises. Gregory Rodrigues against Bruno Ferreira. These guys are both finishers, man. This Bruno Ferreira, he looks way shorter than Gregory Rodrigues at the weigh-ins, man. Very short. Middleweight fighter, all his wins are by finish. I mean, he's a finisher, man. But if this fight goes outside of the first round, even when it looks like Gregory Rodrigues is spent, this guy isn't, man. He will finish you standing, on the ground, anything. And if Rodrigues avoids getting caught in the first round here, man, it's his fight to lose. I suspect that he will win this fight. So my pick will be Gregory Rodrigues. Shogun Rua against Ihor Potieria. They're giving Shogun a possible win here. I'm just not banking on the guy. I'm going to side with Ihor here, man. Even though I picked Ihor his last fight against Nikolai, he did look slower to the punch. Nikolai was just landing serious combinations on the guy. I believe Ihor spit out his mouthpiece numerous times. I'm just going to side with Ihor here, man. I think age is going to be a huge factor here. Shogun, just the wear and tear on your body over the course of this fight game. He's 41 years old, but with the body of a 60-year-old. And I just think Ihor's going to possibly get him out of here. But I think Shogun's path to victory here is surviving the storm. And if it goes outside of round 1, I think Ihor is susceptible to really gassing hard. And I think that's where Shogun can either, pick up a submission or knockout finish, or just pick up a decision win. But I think somebody's going down in this fight. And I'm going to side with Ihor here as a pick. Paul Craig against Johnny Walker. Again, I don't understand how Johnny Walker is almost a minus 200 here against Paul Craig. Paul Craig just has a lot of heart for me, man. Paul Craig is a guy that's going to go out on his sword. Even in defeat. I mean, this guy is he's a gamer, man. And he lost to Volkan his last fight, but the guy's a danger. Every round, every minute of the fight. Nice win over Krylov before that. Volkan fought smart. Johnny Walker, just because he picked up a win over Ian Kudalaba, I don't see him picking up a win over Paul Craig. And I think Johnny Walker is not only susceptible to being submitted, but he's also susceptible to being knocked out here by Paul Craig. Paul Craig has improved stand-up. And I just think Paul Craig has the heart of a giant compared to Johnny Walker. And like I said, I'm a guy that's picked Johnny Walker to win in every one of his UFC fights. So I'm going with Paul Craig here to pick up the win. Jessica Andrade against Lauren Murphy. Andrade finishes everybody except some of the top girls, and Andrade is in the top 5 of flyweight, and she cuts down to strawweight. She is in the top 5 there as well. I mean, Lauren Murphy, nice win over Tate. I don't think we'll see it here. I think Andrade gets her out of there with some nasty body punches sometime in the fight. Gilbert Burns against Magny. I don't think Magny's going to be able to sneak a win here. Gilbert Burns, he's just too dangerous everywhere. I can see Burns knocking him out on the feet, or, taking him to the ground and just passing his guard, subbing him. So I like Gilbert Burns here. Figueiredo against Moreno. I was on Moreno. Hold on. Let me look. Is this their 4th fight? I believe so. Figgy. So yeah, they fought. Okay, this is their 4th fight. I was on Moreno in their second fight in June of 2021, and I was on Figgy in their fight in January 2022. I was right both times. I felt like I was very lucky to pick up that win with Figueiredo in his last fight. Moreno landed way more volume. Figueiredo might have landed the bigger shots, but I do think Moreno won that fight. I was happy to escape off of that fight with a win with Figgy, but I'm going with Moreno here, man. I just think Figgy's too big for flyweight. I think Moreno's the better fighter. The only question marks are kind of what Moreno's trainer. He was with James Krause for just a little bit before the UFC betting scandal came down. He had to relocate, seek other coaches. And I do like Brandon Moreno to pick up the win here. With just his activity, I just think he's the better fighter. Glover Teixeira against Jamal Hill. Glover Teixeira played his cards well. He really did, as far as he bypassed the shot for the vacant light heavyweight belt in December against Magomed Ankalaev. And that was such a dull fight and turned out to be a draw that Glover is now fighting for the vacant light heavyweight fight against Jamal Hill today in January of 2023. And yeah, I mean, does Glover have a path to winning? For sure. For sure. I just don't think it's going to happen here, man. I don't think Jamal Hill wants to waste any time being in there with Glover Teixeira. I think Jamal Hill is just focused on the task at hand, and I think he's going to get Glover out of here. But if this fight starts getting into the later half of the second round and whatnot, I mean, I think Glover's going to be hitting some takedowns if he's still in this fight. I mean, we've seen Jamal Hill's cardio not be questioned, but I don't think he's ever faced such a dangerous submission guy as in Glover. But Glover can't hang with this guy on the feet. Glover does not want to stand with this guy. It's going to be very dangerous every moment that he's in there with Jamal Hill. And I think Jamal Hill is going to land a shot on Glover Teixeira's chin and put him out of there, man. I think Jamal Hill is going to claim this belt, but it's not going to absolutely shock me either if Glover wins. But I am on the Jamal Hill side in this fight. My picks, guys: Jamal Hill, Brandon Moreno, Gilbert Burns, Jessica Andrade, Paul Craig, Ihor Potieria, Gregory Rodrigues, Thiago Moises, Gabriel Bonfim, Jonathan Almeida, Lacerda, Ismael Bonfim, Nicholas Dalby, Josian Nunes, and Daniel Marcos.